A single-dad janitor covered the CEO's mouth and whispered, "Don't take another step." Marcus Hale had learned how to become invisible. In a building of polished marble floors and glass walls that reflected the city, lights like 1,000 silent witnesses, invisibility was survival. At exactly 9:45 every night, he pushed his janitor's cart into the executive hallway of Ashford Industries, the wheels squeaking softly despite the oil he applied every Sunday. His uniform was clean but worn, the fabric thinning at the elbows. The name stitched over his chest, Marcus, was slightly crooked, as if even the thread had given up on perfection. Earlier that evening, he had tucked his 8-year-old daughter Lily into bed, kissed her forehead, and promised to bring home her favorite strawberry yogurt in the morning. Promises were the only luxury he allowed himself now. The building felt different that night. Too quiet. The usual late-night chatter from assistants finishing reports was gone. Even the air seemed heavier. Marcus noticed things because he had trained himself to. Years ago, before hospital bills swallowed his construction business whole, he had supervised renovations, installed fixtures, memorized the language of materials. Buildings spoke. Most people just didn't listen. As he mopped near the boardroom, he heard it, a faint metallic click from behind the closed door. Not a chair shifting. Not the hum of the projector. A click with intention behind it, mechanical, precise. His hand froze mid-swipe. His heart began to pound, not wildly but steadily, like a warning drum. He stepped closer, pretending to wipe the brass handle. There it was again, a tiny rotational snap like a timer locking into place. Footsteps echoed down the corridor, confident, measured. The CEO himself, Richard Ashford, was walking toward the boardroom. Phone pressed to his ear, irritation clear in his stride. 2 security guards followed at a respectful distance. Marcus's mind raced. He thought of Lily's drawing, taped to their fridge, the one that said, "My daddy is my hero." He thought of how quickly a life could vanish. He thought of another child growing up without a parent. In 3 quick strides, he reached Ashford. He grabbed the CEO from behind, one arm across his chest, his other hand firmly covering the man's mouth. Gasps exploded in the hallway. The phone clattered to the floor. Security shouted and rushed forward. "Don't take another step," Marcus whispered, his voice low but unshaking. "Please, just don't." Marcus slowly removed his hand but stayed close, positioning himself between the CEO and the boardroom door. "If I'm wrong, you can fire me. Have me arrested," Marcus said quietly. "But give it 30 seconds. The hallway fell into a suffocating silence. Every tick of Marcus's heartbeat felt louder than the last. And then, from inside the boardroom, a deafening blast tore through the walls, shattering glass and flooding the corridor with smoke. The explosion left a high-pitched ringing in Marcus's ears, as if the world itself had inhaled and forgotten how to breathe. Smoke rolled through the executive hallway in thick grey waves, setting off alarms that screamed from the ceilings. Sprinklers burst to life, drenching marble floors and turning them slick beneath everyone's shoes. Security officers grabbed the stunned CEO and pulled him backward, shielding him with their bodies as shards of glass skidded across the corridor. Marcus stood frozen for half a second, his heart hammering against his ribs. He had been right. But there was no triumph in it. Only the heavy realization of what could have happened if he had hesitated, if he had doubted himself, if he had chosen silence. "Evacuate the floor," someone shouted. Employees poured out of offices, panic written across their faces. Some coughed through the smoke. Others clutched phones, filming in disbelief. Red emergency lights flickered against the walls, casting everything in a pulsing crimson glow. Richard Ashford stared at the shattered boardroom door, his expression drained of color. Just moments ago, he'd been irritated about a delayed contract. Now he was staring at the space where he would have been standing. He turned slowly toward Marcus. "You said 30 seconds, Ashford muttered, almost to himself. Marcus swallowed. "I heard a timer mechanism. I used to install reinforced panels during high-end renovations. That sound. It didn't belong here." Before Ashford could respond, 2 security officers grabbed Marcus roughly, forcing his hands behind his back. "Sir, this could be staged," one guard insisted. "He might be involved." Marcus didn't resist. He understood suspicion. A janitor tackling a CEO minutes before an explosion, it sounded insane. Ashford looked at Marcus carefully. Not at his uniform, not at the mop bucket nearby, at his eyes. "No," Ashford said firmly. "If he wanted me dead, he would have let me walk through that door." The guards hesitated. "Release him!" They slowly let Marcus go. Sirens wailed outside as police and fire crews arrived. The building buzzed with chaos, flashing lights painting the night sky blue. Ashford stepped closer to Marcus, lowering his voice. "You saved my life." Marcus shook his head faintly. "I just reacted." "That wasn't just a reaction," Ashford replied. "That was instinct, experience." For the first time, Ashford noticed the calluses on Marcus's hands. The posture of someone who had once commanded job sites, not cleaning carts. "Why are you working here?" "You risked everything," Ashford said. Marcus looked toward the shattered boardroom. "I couldn't risk someone else's child losing a parent tonight." In that moment, the distance between CEO and janitor disappeared. They were just two fathers standing in the aftermath of something that could have ended far worse. And somewhere inside the chaos, a quiet shift began, one that neither of them fully understood yet. But both would soon feel. By sunrise, the glass tower of Ashford Industries was surrounded by news vans, flashing lights reflecting off broken windows like fractured stars. Inside, investigators moved methodically through the ruins of the executive floor, photographing debris and carefully removing sections of the damaged wall. Marcus sat alone in a small conference room 2 floors below, his janitor's cart parked outside, the door like a forgotten reminder of who he was supposed to be. His uniform was still damp from the sprinklers, and dried streaks of soot marked his sleeves. Across the table sat 2 federal investigators, their expressions sharp but controlled. "You said you recognized the sound," one of them began, pen hovering over a notepad. "Explain exactly how." Marcus folded his rough hands together. "I used to install security-reinforced panels and custom fixtures in corporate buildings. When something mechanical is hidden behind drywall, the vibration changes the acoustics. It carries differently." The investigators exchanged a glance. "So you have construction experience." "I owned a contracting company," Marcus said quietly, "before my wife got sick." Hours later, in a private office temporarily set up for crisis management, Ashford reviewed preliminary findings. The device had been sophisticated, hidden inside a decorative wall panel installed during a recent renovation. Access to that panel required executive clearance, which meant this wasn't random. It was internal. Ashford's jaw tightened as he studied the security logs. One name kept appearing in restricted access reports: Daniel Kessler, Senior Vice President of Operations, ambitious, calculated. Meanwhile, Marcus was finally released from questioning. As he stepped into the hallway, he nearly collided with Ashford himself. The CEO dismissed the security detail with a subtle gesture. "They've identified how the device was planted," Ashford said evenly. "It required someone high up." Marcus nodded slowly. "That makes sense." Ashford studied him carefully. "You understand something most people in this building don't." Marcus gave a faint shrug. "Every building has them." "So do companies," Ashford replied. There was a long pause. "Why didn't you just walk away last night?" "Because I know what it feels like to lose everything in one moment," he said softly. "I couldn't watch it happen to someone else if I could stop it." For the first time, Ashford didn't see a janitor standing in front of him. He saw a man who had built something, lost it, and still chosen integrity over bitterness. Within days, the investigation confirmed it. Kessler had orchestrated the attack, planning to seize control of the company amid the chaos. He was arrested quietly, escorted out before markets opened. But inside Ashford Industries, something else had shifted. Employees whispered about the janitor who saved the CEO. Executives who had never learned. His name now nodded respectfully when he passed. The invisible man had been seen. A week after the explosion, the building felt different. The shattered glass had been replaced, the smoke stains scrubbed from the marble. But something invisible had shifted in the air. People walked a little slower past the executive floor. They spoke a little softer, and whenever Marcus pushed his janitor's cart down the hallway, Conversations paused, not out of dismissal this time, but recognition. He wasn't invisible anymore. That morning, Marcus had just finished restocking supplies when a message came through security. "The CEO would like to see you immediately." He wiped his hands on a cloth, suddenly aware of the scuffed edges of his shoes and the faded stitching on his uniform. As he stepped into the executive office, sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across polished wood floors. Richard Ashford stood near the glass, looking out at the city skyline. For a moment, neither of them spoke. "I've spent the last few days reviewing everything," Ashford finally said, turning around. "Security protocols, structural vulnerabilities, leadership failures." He paused. "And you?" Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, I was just doing what anyone should have done." Ashford gave a faint, almost amused smile. "No, you did what most people are too afraid to do." He walked to his desk and picked up a folder, thick, official. "You lost your company because life dealt you something unfair," Ashford continued. "But you never lost your skill or your integrity." Marcus felt his throat tighten but said nothing. "I need someone in this building who understands more than spreadsheets," Ashford said. "Someone who sees risks before they explode. Someone who isn't blinded by title or ego." He slid the folder across the desk. Marcus opened it slowly. "Director of Facilities and Corporate Safety. Full benefits. Salary triple what he earned now. Educational Assistance Fund. For Lily." His hands trembled slightly. "Why me?" he asked quietly. Ashford stepped closer. "Because when you thought I was about to die, you didn't see a CEO, you saw a father." The words landed heavily between them. "I can't promise I know how to sit in boardrooms again," Marcus admitted. "You don't need to," Ashford replied. "You just need to lead the way you already do." That evening, Marcus walked out of the building not with a mop cart, but with a signed contract in his briefcase. The security guard at the entrance straightened and nodded respectfully. When Marcus picked Lily up from school, she ran into his arms like she always did. "Daddy, why are you smiling so big?" she asked. He crouched to her level. "Because sometimes," he said gently, "doing the right thing changes everything." As they walked home hand in hand, the weight Marcus had carried for years felt lighter. He had lost much in life, but he had never lost who he was. And now the world finally saw it too.